I've been so focused on getting that content schedule, making sure I'm consistently uploading, and that's my primary focus. So people like to purchase way out there and get the top of the line. Bring me right back here, and I'm happy. Get the most functionality for the best amount of price. I found that was something that was I wasn't doing for a long time. Then the commenter said, "Hey, I'd really appreciate some time codes." It's like,
Hello, I'm Dustin PolyInnovator. Today I'm talking with Lamar Fowler, who is the founder and creator of MFinResearch, YouTuber, EDC Enthusiast, and for those who don't know, EDC is Everyday Carry. Thank you for joining me on the PolyTools Creator Spotlight.
Oh, thanks for having me. I am so excited. It's going to be fun. Like I said, told you before, it's my first interview. So thanks for reaching out to me and asking me to do an interview. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like to look out for other creators who are interesting, and I've been digging into the EDC world. So when I came across your channel, I was like, oh, he's like doing something pretty cool there. And I liked how your thumbnails and the structure of the videos, even back at the beginning of your channel, it seemed like you were knowing what you're doing there. So I was like, oh, let's give him
thank you.
Time to shine, if you will.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm figuring it out, just fumbling along, trying to figure out what's what, figure out what I like. I guess finding my voice, if you will, sometimes just trying not to be like everyone else and, tell my story how I see it.
Especially with the EDC world, there is some other creators out there who are pretty big, like pack hackers and all that jazz, but there's other angles you can take. And one thing I heard for the first time on your channel was having like a cigar EDC. So you have like this almost different niches for EDC too. Like I am a real big techie. I want my little gaming handheld. I know you have a gaming handheld too. We can talk about that too. I have a Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, for example.
Yeah.
Those are things nice. And just like having my own tech. And that's kind of like I have a separate bag for that.
Yeah, I think that comes out from switching bags a lot of times. What ends up happening is it's like, oh man, I'm out and I forgot ... So if it's in a kit, I don't have to worry about it. It's like I know this kit is here. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to look for it. Now, if I have to restock, that's a different issue. But usually the kits keep me straight or keep me situated. And usually it comes from a situation where I've been somewhere in the past and I don't have a thing that I need. And it's like, oh man, I wish I had X.
Yeah. I always try to be extra prepared for most things, even since I was a kid. I loved having first aid kits, even as a young lad. And so like I had like 3 on my last trip for no reason. Like I had 3. I couldn't just combine them. Oh
man, you are about to go down the black hole. Welcome. You're going to have so much fun.
I went to Walmart of all places and I managed to get a sling bag for $10 and it was in a camping section. I looked in the fitness section. They had a little mini sling there, but it was, like $20, only had 2 pockets. And I was like, this is not really good. Went to the camping section and had 4 different pockets and this tiny little sling. I was like, oh, that's a good deal, a good bag. And then I also bought a sling back in the day on Amazon from Bangi. And I was like, this is pretty nice too. But now that I'm getting obsessed with Tom Talk, I think that's how I originally found you, your comparisons with the 2 slings.
Oh, yeah. So Tom Talk, I think, is a great brand. If you don't really want to spend some of the premium money, it's a good brand to kind of get your feet wet and really know what you don't want out of a sling, what you do want, because they do a lot right, I think, especially for the price point. I mean, you can spend some of their new slings now are like $30. And for that, you can get a great little sling. I almost bought one a couple weeks ago. I went a different direction, but yeah, I think they're a good brand to go with. And I think the other thing about budget gear is it lets you figure out, and I think I just did a video on budget EDC. It helps you figure out what you want, what you don't want. I mean, because I wouldn't want to drop $500 on a knife, find out that I hate carrying knives.
Not to mention, like it's sometimes hard to bring those out to places too.
Oh man, yes. Yeah, luckily, I think once or twice it's been like, hey, who is this guy with this crazy knife? But usually now I'm into utility knives now, just because they're small, they travel well. You can take the blade out and then just pick up a new blade wherever you're at, and you don't have to sharpen them. I hate sharpening knives. So that's usually been the kick I'm on. And luckily the community is going in that direction. So you're getting a lot more fun in that category, if you will.
And it's interesting too to think about, like, each person has their own different things they want to carry with them, and that's the kind of personal touch aspect to it. And I definitely think it's fun to really get into that topic as a creator too. Like you get to express your own fondness for cigars or knives or firearms, whatever it may be. But then other creators might be going in a different direction, but people can follow your channel for that. Some people might find you just because of cigars.
Yeah, and that's true. I've had a couple that say, hey, thanks. I'm so glad somebody else out there is a brother of the leaf. And I'm like, hey, welcome aboard. they're fun. This is actually my little man cave where I'm at right now, where I have my cigars in the garage. So my wife's let me have the garage. So the cigars are on this side, the motorcycles are over there, and she's like, "Hey, you can have it. I trust you," and she's great for that. So
That's nice. It's great to have someone who supports you and your dreams and your interests. Getting to the first question here too, what got you started as a content creator?
Ooh, so let's go back a little bit. So going back, and good segue, by the way, my wife is actually how it started. So my birthday one year, I'm trying to think of how long ago it was. It had to be 4, 5 years ago. It had to be at least 5. No, let's see. My son is 5, so it had to be about 6 years ago. Yeah, it had to be 6 years ago before my son was born. So for my birthday that year, my wife sent all my friends, because I have friends who are out of the Texas area, and my brother's in. He at the time, I think he was in Mississippi or Atlanta, I can't remember, and some family and stuff like that. She sent them all a little gift kit with a cigar and a little bottle of whiskey, and she set up a Zoom, surprised me with it and everything, and just said, "Hey, you have to be here this time at 7 o'clock." And I'm like, okay, where are we going? It's 6:55. We need to get in the car or something. And she's like, no, we'll just go right here. So we had a big Zoom, a whole bunch of friends and stuff, got to chop it up for a good little while. And that was fun. And so what became of that is my brother and I, we started just doing the same thing every other weekend or something like that. And then what ended up happening was we're like, these were some good conversations. They might offend some people. That's okay. But maybe we should record these and throw them up. And so simultaneous to that, I wanted to get into the content creation space. And initially I thought I was going to be a moto vlogger, and not necessarily a moto vlogger with the, helmet and the GoPro on my helmet talking about the crazy stuff that I see on the street. I wanted to review the gear. Yeah. And then so I started looking at that, built my spreadsheet, and I was thinking this gets a little cost prohibitive after a while, because helmets go on the bad end to $100 all the way up to 15, 2,000. It's like, okay, only so many people are going to be buying those, so all right, we're going to pivot a little bit. And then I thought I got really big into personal finance, so I started doing that, and I dabbled with a blog for a while. Then I realized I hate writing. I'm a numbers guy, so I hate writing. I can't see myself doing this every week, so I took a break. And my brother and I, we kept doing our thing. And he was like, you talk about slings and backpacks and pouches. And he cracks jokes on me because he says my slings are my man purses and all that good stuff. I'm like, I don't care, man. I love it. Yeah, like, I don't care. So he gives me a hard time on that. And I just basically said, you know what? Let's think about that a little bit. So started looking around, and then I think about like my office back when I'm remote now, but when I actually worked in an office, what I ended up doing was I would go to my desk. I had like a sewing kit, a first aid kit, instant coffee, snacks, even though I had a French press on the other side, coffee nerd too. So I had all these things, and then I had another kit on my motorcycle. I had a kit in my bag, and I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. So I started looking at videos and stuff, and I started seeing like, hey, this is EDC. I've been doing this for a minute. And so I started doing it and, being a consumer of content for a while. And what I found out was that, hey, there are people who are reviewing stuff that aren't answering the questions I want to know. Yeah. They're not comparing stuff. Like, what is this spec? Like, you can see a spec. What does that spec mean to you? So, and for me, I'm a nerd with the stuff. So if I'm going to buy anything, I'm going to put it in a spreadsheet. I'm going to compare specs. I'm going to compare dollar per volume. I go down the rabbit hole in it. And so when I'm done with that, it's like, okay, what do I do with it? And so the channel gives me an opportunity to find an outlet for it. And somebody's always finding it and asking a question and saying, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And it allows it to have a whole new life again. So that process is just fun. So I think from the birthday Zoom to now, that's how I got here, I think. Yeah.
It's a great story. I didn't even know you did blogging too. I actually had a question here that I took out because I didn't know you did blogging and podcasts before, because I didn't see it whenever I was researching you. So maybe we could talk about that question too. But it's interesting. Sure. Like I said, I found you through that, I think, Tom Talk sling comparison, because no one else had made it. And there's even not that many videos on the duffel bag either. And I you were one of the big ones.
And it's such a great bag. And that's the thing. It's a fantastic bag. I actually used it for a while, and that was the other video I was going to make on it, a remote work kit. So when I go to the coffee shop, I was going to put everything in there, but I've since used it for other things, so I didn't do that. But it's a fantastic bag. You can use it as a gym bag, one bag travel. It's a great option. It just does a lot. So I like to also see where it sits in the lineup. So I think in that video I compared it to the Air travel duffel, and it's a fraction of the price.
That's
So
the
yeah,
thing. Like
it's a
Air
good
and
deal.
Alpaca are just so expensive.
So it's weird. I love Air. I love Alpaca. They're kind of what got me into the game. And I think there's different things for different people as you go up the price range. And I see it in my comments where some folks are like, all I need is my wallet, keys, flashlight, and a knife. Good for you. That's great. I love
I,
it. I'm excited. I forget about that iPhone. But I usually just say, okay, that's cool. And for me, I'm a student of everything. So I appreciate that. And I like to see, have you ever had a situation where this has happened? Do you wish you had this happen to you? So, and because of that, you try different things. And that's where I come in. So it's like, what can I do differently to make things a little bit better? And do I have to spend an arm and a leg on it? And sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
I definitely think you need to also carry like a portable battery, and I definitely
Oh,
have been
yeah.
kind of obsessed with like bringing my tablet around too, and like having headphones and all that jazz, like making sure and chargers, like those are all things that you should probably have in your EDC no matter what, even if it's a little portable charger, just to make sure you have something. But like again, like what you need and what you want and what I think you need and what you think someone needs, it's always different. Everyone's different. That's kind of the key thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, because I have kids, and when they were younger, diapers
Diapers
were in the
even.
bag.
Exactly.
Wipes are still in the bag. My son can go from clean to filthy in seconds, and he's 5. So you got to have those wipes. There's been times we've gone into a place, and they're like, "Man, your face was clean when I put you in the car. What happened?" Well, Daddy, I found this snack in my cup holder, and here we are. And so I got to
Whatever.
clean him up.
Yeah, and it's
Yep.
interesting too because I think I told you in the messages that I got the Tom Talk Navigator backpack, and the reason why I bought it is because I literally watched every video that was on that. Like I watched every single one. I couldn't find any more, and the reason why I got that over the other ones wasn't just because of the price, although that was a big factor for me at this point. But it was also a matter of I had some cool internal compartment things like different
Yeah.
zippers and like compression cubes and different kind of packing solutions that I wanted to use that other backpacks couldn't really use, like because there's the spacing, that kind of thing. And so I felt like that was probably the best one, but then someone else might find that the Air Tech bag is a lot better for them.
Yeah, and once you pick a bag, and that's the funny thing is, you'll pick a bag, you'll think it's perfect, and then you're like, oh man, I wish it did this, or I wish it did that. But the Tom Talk bag, like I told you, was a great bag. I was going to buy it, but then my buddy bought it, and so it's like, you can use it whenever you're ready. It was at my house for like a month. Then he was like, hey, can I borrow it back for a trip? I'm gonna get to it eventually, but yeah, it's a great bag for the money, definitely.
I'm gonna bug you on that. I feel like it's interesting too. What did you blog about before?
It was personal finance.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be a personal finance blogger. I had started with Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover and started down that rabbit hole and was doing the baby steps. Didn't like the baby steps. Got into all kind of fun stuff in finance. I was like, I can share this with other people. And then I got to the point. It's like, this isn't really what I want to do. I mean, I'm passionate this much, but I'd
Yeah.
rather have that conversation with somebody on the side. I can't see myself talking about that for years.
Yeah. I almost wonder too if maybe like the format for personal finance, like maybe it would have been better talking or like on a podcast or on
Yeah.
video about it versus writing. Because one of the questions here was actually thinking about like travel blogs, because a lot of creators in the EDC kind of cross over to that too.
Yeah.
And since traveling is kind of your area, I just thought that'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and I was thinking about that one a lot. We just went on my first cruise. I guess it's been 2 weeks ago now. Wow, went to just a short little cruise to the Bahamas. Took the whole family, and I had this plan. I had my travel backpack ready. I'm going to collect all this content during the dead times. The tripod never came out the bag at all. I brought my GoPro because I'm planning on getting all these fun underwater shots. Look at the GoPro, realize I have the wrong battery cover on. So it's the one where you can charge while you're using it and not the one to seal it up. So
The
couldn't
waterproof.
use it. And it's like, oh man, good job, me. I have all this stuff that I brought my wireless mic, didn't touch any of that stuff. I got a little bit of B-roll. So I think for me, instead of like doing the on the scene traveling, I'd be more interested in, this is what I'm going to take, or looking at what I took and kind of doing like a post-mortem on what I'm traveling. So kind of a spoiler, I'm messing around with the video because I've gotten into the habit of taking like my toiletries dry and looking at how much space that really saves. So I'm gonna test and see if it's really a significant savings. I'll do a video on it. But I found, some of it's hit and miss, and some of it's
Yeah.
not. How do I put this delicately? Geared towards my scent demographic, I'll say. I don't need, flowers and lilacs and all that stuff. I want,
Yeah.
give me good scents or whatever. So that's the hard part, is finding the scents that work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to one store and it was like, oh man, this is an assault on the senses. And I don't want to be that guy in the elevator just killing your nose. So
I
definitely
do like
gave up
that
on
store.
that.
I think if we're thinking about the same one, I do like getting the ocean scent from it.
No, I don't know. We might not. So they have a lot of the what is it? The dry soaps, and they had dry
Hmm.
mouthwashes, and those were
Oh, okay.
cool. Um,
Yeah, I've seen those dry like toothpaste pellets, and I think that might be
hmm
useful. But I think the dry shampoo and stuff like that might be overkill for a lot of people.
yeah. Well, I don't really need dry shampoo or anything. So, but
So
yeah, I
wax
think
or lotion or something like that.
oh yeah. But what did I use? I've used the toothpaste tabs. I
Mm,
think for me, and if ever I do a video, what you have to get used to is it's not exactly the same as what you're used to. And once you get
yeah.
over that mental barrier, it's fine. Your breath is gonna be just fine. You're gonna have clean teeth and it works. But it's different. It's definitely an adjustment. And then the ones that I had are charcoal, so you smile and your whole smile is black, and you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
I don't know about this.
I wanted to also tell you too. Earlier this summer, I fist bumped Dave Ramsey because he was on his way somewhere, and I
Oh,
was able to
cool.
like get say hi to him or
Oh, that's
whatnot.
awesome.
He was about to go do a keynote. And then one thing I think is kind of interesting, and this is just because I had some horrifying situations where my breath smelled really bad, and I'm like networking
Mm-hmm.
with people, and one of my friends at least told me like, "Hey, you need to clean up your breath because it smells kind of iffy."
That's a
Actually,
good friend.
yeah, he was a good friend. He is a good friend. Yeah, it actually relates to my next point too. I ended up needing to get more caffeine. You said you're a coffee fanatic. I love coffee
Mm-hmm.
myself. However, it's hard to sometimes do like instant coffee if you don't have enough creamer and stuff like that. I need my creamer and sugar. I can't do black coffee really. But I ended
Yeah.
up doing Celsius packets, and that ended up being
Mm-hmm.
really great
Mm-hmm.
because I went on a trip to Disney World, having to get woken up early every day, but no access to like anything decent caffeine wise.
Oh man.
Tiny little cups of coffee, which would too hot to really drink fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then the energy drink was some crappy monster that wasn't even like that high in
Yeah.
milligrams. And
Yeah.
so I learned my lesson. And the last two trips, I started taking Celsius packets. I put it in my EDC, put
Mm-hmm.
it in my backpack, put it in my other bag, like whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. See, and I think that's what it's about. And see, now that you've mentioned that, okay, a Celsius packet, and I tried the Celsius in the cans, and I'm like, wait
Mm-hmm.
a minute, let's get a
Yeah.
couple of those and try those. And I have a buddy that he drinks Celsius, so I'm gonna shoot him a couple of those as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, I think, what I love is just you have to be receptive to everything, because you're never going to learn where you're going to pick up something. So
Yeah.
I always have a notebook somewhere around, because an idea is going to come. Someone's going to recommend something. Someone's going to ask you something. And I just love that. It's great. And
Especially those like field notebooks I see a lot of. I generally am more of
mm-hmm,
a digital person for my notes, but I understand like the need for that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's different.
It depends. And I think I go the spectrum of, I have, what is it, Evernote or Good Notes on my iPad. So I go there. I'll use Apple Notes. I'll use reminders for different things. I'll use TickTick for scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
But then it just depends. Like for work, I have a Rocket Book. And every Monday, I just write my tasks down, roll over what didn't get accomplished, and then
Mm-hmm.
I just keep the field note. Usually it's the field notes, but I've tried a little cheap little notebook from Amazon. No, not Amazon, but Walmart, and it's like 33 cents or $1.12 for three, so it comes
Yeah.
out to like 33 cents a piece. And so that just sits in my pocket or in the back of the sling or in the pouch. And if something comes up, I can just jot it down real quick until my pen dries out.
Yeah, and it also kind of for some reason that made me think about like different size slings too. Like, do you have a
Hmm.
particular preference? Like, do you want the like Lululemon size bag, or do you want the full on like sling where you can carry a Steam Deck, or what do you like? Is what I'm trying to say.
So that's a bit of a spoiler for a future question you have on the
Okay.
list, but I'll tease it just a little bit. I think there's different tools for different jobs.
Mm.
And even so, in the video that I just did was my total EDC. It's on a flowchart. It's fun, and I talk about what I call a micro sling for just when I'm going to take the kids to school. So
Mm.
it's just got my wallet, my phone, my key fob, my AirPods, just in case I get stuck in line or something like that happens, or I'm in my wife's car and it doesn't connect to my phone properly, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's all that's in there, really. And then if I'm going out a little further, I have a slightly bigger sling. So anywhere from say 2 to 3.5 liters or so, I'll use that one.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, the kind of differentiating factor is my iPad. If I'm taking my iPad, I have to go bigger. But if
Yeah.
I'm not taking my iPad, I can go smaller. So it's usually just a set of decisions that I make just based on, what am I doing, where am I going, and kind of how long I'm going. And there's so many tools for the job.
And we can get into that too here in a second. I have one more in between that, like the tablet's here, the micro sling is here, the gaming sling is kind of in the middle here because
Yeah.
my little Game Boy with
Yeah.
the case.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep the case in there just in case, and that needs something slightly bigger than my micro sling can handle. But like I have a slightly bigger one that I got at the podcasting conference. I was able to slip it into there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just wanted to tell you because I just think it's fun. There's these JVC earbuds that are literally like half the size of AirPods, and
Mm-hmm.
they're tiny little case for these earbuds. And I have that in my micro sling, so in case I ever need to have headphones that are not my main ones that I use in my
Right.
actual bag or sling. And I was like, that's kind of cool.
I had to check that out. I just bought a pair of AirPod Pros, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Now it's my originals finally died, so just replaced those. But that's good. It'd be a good backup pair or a secondary kit or for the kids or something like that. So yeah, definitely.
I
I'll have to
mainly
check those
use
out.
Skull Candy instead of AirPods myself,
Yeah.
but those are like the bigger ones, bigger case
Yeah.
that can charge it and stuff like that. But then I'll put that in a backpack. But these tiny ones, I was like,
Yeah.
I'll put it in a sling as a backup in case these other ones break.
Yeah, and then it has you versatility, and one of the things I'm not a how do I put this? I'm a gamer, but not. I follow gaming. I don't have any of the next gen consoles. I'm really tempted because the last real game I played was the original Dragon Age, and the new Dragon Age is coming out, and I'm like, man, come on now. Oh, do I really need something else to suck up more time? Oh, so I'm tempted. My brother's like, do it. So,
But I would say Xbox because as much as I love PlayStation, the Xbox Series X has been phenomenal. Although you probably only need a Series S to be happy, probably. So save some money that way. But getting to that question that you kind of hinted towards earlier, what is your most favorite EDC item, sling, tool, or tech that you have?
Okay, so it comes in levels to me. So first up, I'm gonna say my sling is my go-to favorite, and I bought some visual aids. So
thank you.
This is one I haven't reviewed yet. This is a waterfill design. I forgot what it's called, but it's a little leather right here, and it's got Cordura. It's way more than I would normally pay for a sling, but stepping out of my comfort zone and trying to see what's the difference between a $30 to $40 sling and on up, and eye-opening, definitely eye-opening. Does the same job, but the nicer fit and finish, just the small details, the small considerations to usability, I think is what makes a difference when you jump up in price point. And like I talk about a lot in my videos, is I like to get to the point of diminishing returns. Let me get that back in the frame. So once you get to about there is where I like to stop. So people like to purchase way out there and get the top of the line. Bring me right back here and I'm happy. Get the most functionality for the best amount of price. But that's my favorite.
The seatbelt feature has been a lot of people like I saw that a lot on these different channels where like the difference between the cheap slings or bags had the kind of just abrasive almost belt, but then like the seatbelt's like nice and smooth, and that's kind of a big difference in the price.
It makes a difference, and it makes a ton of difference. And then some have like padding. It's amazing sometimes, and just the small things like, is it ambidextrous or not? If you want to wear left versus right, some don't consider that. Some consider it, but don't really make it usable for the left and the right. And it's funny because if I ever give a sling to my daughter who's left-handed, she's gonna say, "Daddy, this isn't gonna work for me." Yeah. So, man, she loves slings just as much as I do.
So the sling is your first thing. What's the next tool or tech that you really enjoy?
Next up, and again, I brought visual aids tonight, is my EDC pouches. So this is the Garage Built Gear Mighty Pouch, and I like it. You can accessorize it, and just the community's kind of split on pouches or Rangerize or whatever the case may be. Is I don't take myself too serious at all, and I just want to have fun. So I'm gonna represent, the nerdy stuff. Where if it looks cool to me, I don't care about like the drops or anything like that. I missed out on one that they had a Ninja Turtle patch from Data Crew did, and I just missed it. Although I knew if I picked it up, my son would have tried to take them from me. But but that's okay. So picked up some of those. They had the Thundercats ones, again, showing my age for the cartoons that I grew up on, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. I got a little gray in the beard, so it's fine. But yeah, so this is the Garage Built Gear Mighty Pouch, and I'm gonna be careful how I open it. And this is just I pulled this right out of my sling right before we recorded, and this is pretty much what it looks like right now.
Hmm.
And it's just got the basics in there that I need, and everything in here I've used at some point in time. I'd say this week, really.
It's interesting too, because like some people think about camping, so they don't want like a fire starter
Mm-hmm.
like flint and magnesium or whatnot, and then other people might want like other music devices. They want like little
Mm-hmm.
play drums sticks like they can bring with you or something like that. And it's just interesting to think about these different pouches can accommodate different
Mm-hmm.
people's needs. So that pouch you just
Mm-hmm.
showed me, I might fill up with first aid stuff, for example,
Oh yeah.
or maybe like actually, this is the other thing I was going to bring up earlier. I had my toiletry bag in my
Mm-hmm.
backpack, but I have a little
Mm-hmm.
micro toiletry bag in my sling because sometimes I'm not near my backpack, or maybe I need to have something quick access. I have a little micro toothbrush in there, but I also have things like chapstick and antacid tabs. I definitely need to have that
Oh,
sometimes.
you were already down the rabbit hole, my friend. You were there. Welcome aboard.
Anything else on the little pouches there, or no?
So that's the pouch. This is my
Okay.
favorite. My other pouch is my cigar EDC, the
Mhm.
Alpaca utility sling, which they don't make anymore, which
Wow.
I really wish they would. Alpaca kind of switches things in and out kind of constantly to kind of test what works and what doesn't work.
Mhm.
And that was a good pouch. It was slightly larger than, so it's probably double the size of this,
Mm.
which it's not going in your sling bag or anything like that. It's going in your backpack, or it's sitting for me, which I found that I didn't really know that I needed. Is I have a pouch just sitting in the garage. It's the Data Crew What a Slider, and I talked about how that grew on me because I didn't like it at first because it's a little thick, well made, but it's a little fat for my needs. It just sits out here. It's got like a Leatherman in there, a flashlight, and just some duct tape, and just things that I'll need just in the garage. I'm sitting in the garage a lot. Something breaks, I'm here to fix it. Or like
Mhm.
my fans, I have fans in here and they get dust, so I take them apart and clean them while I'm watching YouTube videos, and everything in the kit will handle that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean it's a pouch for every job, and what I like to see in videos is how it shows the mindset of the particular creator. So, like you said,
Yeah.
are they into camping? My allergies are too bad for camping. Are they into prep and survival capabilities and things like that? Are they into tech?
Mhm.
Are they into just some even? And I think I have one in here. So, some guys out there, I do. And this is another thing that the community is they're kind of divisive on is the little EDC fidgets.
Oh
So let me
yeah.
get that in there. So I don't think you should spend a lot of money on them, but there is nothing like sitting on a conference call with something like this just to kind of keep help with your focus. Don't go. I don't think you need to go crazy, but one or two. But
Yeah.
some guys they'll spend hundreds of dollars on them, and
No.
teach his own. But not my thing.
I got my little sister a little game controller fidget toy, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's about the same size as that one, but it has a little thumbstick, it has buttons, it has shoulder buttons, it has
Yeah.
like a D-pad, has everything on this tiny little size of
Mm-hmm.
the thumb kind of thing. And so I think something like that would be, like in what you just showed
Oh yeah.
too, having just something to kind of fiddle with your hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I ended up the way I ended up deciding to get one is I bought my daughter one. She had a little, it was a little monster, so it had like eyes that bug in and out, the legs stretch up and down and stuff like that. And so she lost it, and I found it one day. I was like, man, I'm playing with this more than her. So then I got a budget one from Amazon,
Hmm.
and that's one of those things where the difference between the budget and spending a little bit more money to get things, you can tell the difference in manufacturing quality. Like this
Yeah.
one, you can really tell the finishes on the metal. That's a hit of copper right there. The magnets are just better. The one that I had, the magnet popped out
Oh,
and
that's good.
flipped. And so now the polarity's off. So when you fidget with it, it slightly just pushes it out just like that every time. So it's like, yeah, this is just an execution and not what not to do now. So
Yeah.
that's where I leave it.
So we talked a lot about like physical tools and stuff we use in our everyday carry, but
Oh
I'm
yeah.
curious, as a content creator, what kind of tools do you use for creation or repurposing your
Hmm.
content?
So that's the tricky one for me. Right now, I've been so focused on getting that content schedule, making sure I'm consistently uploading, and that's my primary focus. So to do those things, sometimes I'll use StreamYard. What else do I use? I use Canva. I use CapCut. I use ChatGPT, of course,
Mm.
and DaVinci Resolve. I mean, and that's
Okay,
really it.
okay, fancy.
I not really. I'm a beginner,
Yeah.
truly a beginner, and it's fun. I mean, I love being a beginner, so I love not knowing and then having an idea a little later. Let's see, what else do I use? That's really it. I haven't gone down the Notion black hole yet. I have
Mm.
a playlist in YouTube saved for the day
I
that
can
I'm
give
ready
you
for
one too.
that. Oh, don't do me like that. That's going to be terrible. I'm already planning on taking a week off from work and just saying, all right, I'm going in on Notion.
I had to bite my tongue. That I told myself when I started doing interviews 4 years ago that
Hmm.
like the number one skill you need to work on is active listening, so don't interrupt the guest.
Oh, yeah.
My main personal channel, like I couldn't shouldn't say
Hmm.
main because this is also important to me too, but
Sure.
my personal brand channel is about knowledge management tools and being
Hmm.
multidisciplinary. And so knowledge management being like Notion, or I use Obsidian now. I moved off of Notion
Hmm.
after
Yeah,
being
I've
on
seen
it
that.
for like I was on Notion for like 5 or 6 years.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so you definitely can pick my brain on that.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
talk your
I'll
ear
have
full.
to remember that in the future.
I actually
Yeah,
have a
because
coaching call on Friday for somebody about that.
oh, cool. That's awesome. I definitely keep that in mind because, yeah, I know that once I get in, just the way that I think and process the
Mhm.
world, I'm gonna go in and get real busy on that. Can't use it for work, but I
Yeah.
can use it for this and church and things like that. So I definitely
Well,
keep
what's
that in
really
mind.
nice is they have the Notion calendar now, and so you can actually
Hmm.
link a database to the calendar. And that was
Hmm.
kind of a big deal to me because I wanted to be able to have a way to see all the posts that I need to go ahead and do. So what I would do is
Hmm.
on my Notion database, I have a list of all the videos or blog posts or podcasts or newsletters or whatever that I wanted to do. I had different views for each content type. And then on the
Hmm.
master view, I could see all of it. But I had another master view that was a calendar, and I would just drag and I'll give everyone its own day. And so each day I could just
Hmm.
go in like, oh, on the first I'm going to do this video, on the second I'm going to do this blog, and then now you can actually have those show up on your Google Calendar, or at least on the Notion
That's
calendar at
pretty
the very
cool.
least.
Yeah.
And that helped
Yeah.
a lot with like organizing and making sure I got stuff done.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. That's definitely a thing. I'm just like, man, it'll get to. Usually, my goal is to Monday have the script done, Tuesday start the shooting,
Mm.
Wednesday rough edit, Thursday get any other B roll that I may have missed, and shoot for a Friday release. I know there's different schools of thought on if you need to release on a certain day every day, and I'm just like, we release when we release.
Once
People are
a
gonna. I
week is
mean,
what's really key.
right. In 6 months, no one's gonna care if I release that Friday at 7 o'clock or Saturday at noon. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of once I step back a little bit, it takes the stress off a lot. So, and
What
even
I
sometimes, I mean,
oh sorry,
go if life is in the way. Like I think I posted on the community post. My wife and I we celebrated our 15-year anniversary
nice,
last month. Yeah, so we're
congrats.
still in October, so September, and it's like, yeah, I'm not posting or anything. I'm going to hang out with my wife.
You'll
So,
celebrate.
and that's what we did. Yeah. And I'm sure she was like, that's the right decision to make.
Yeah, he didn't get into trouble that day. So
No,
I was just
no,
gonna
no
say
trouble for this
sometimes the
guy.
time of day matters, but
Yeah.
that's mainly due
Mm-hmm.
to your audience and everybody's channel is different
Mm-hmm.
too, and so that can sometimes be a thing. But
Yeah.
eh,
Yeah, you're right. I have seen that. I noticed if there's a couple times, and usually the weekends are best for me because I guess the EDC guys are going out trying to figure out what their shopping lists are going to be on
mhm.
Saturday. So Fridays are usually the best. Saturday mornings are a good time for me too.
Also, I wanted to mention too, I've used DaVinci for a long time, and two
Mm-hmm.
things that made a world of difference for me that I didn't learn until like way later is that I had to change the hotkey. So S is bound to something else. I don't remember what it was, but someone said on a
Mm-hmm.
video I was watching to bind the slice tool to S.
Mm-hmm.
S for slice, obviously. And that way, whenever you're going through and cutting all the different things, it cuts the entire line down. And that sped up
Mm-hmm.
the process for me a lot. In fact, when I started using CapCut, I had a hard time because I couldn't do that
Oh.
slicing. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other thing was, you probably already know this too, because we talked about speeding things up before the call, is Shift L is an automatic,
Mm-hmm.
like goes 2x speed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That took me forever to know. I didn't know about that one.
I found that and it blew my. I was like, oh wow, I've been doing things wrong this whole time. Oh,
Instantly
I could
doubled my
speed
speed.
right, especially going through at the
Yep.
end just to make sure you didn't miss anything. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, what have I been doing? But what I do is this is my good old MX Master 2, and I have a lot of those programmed into there, so I could
Mm-hmm.
almost edit a complete video just with my right hand. It'll take
That's
a little bit
nice.
longer, but yeah, I love it. So my slice is there, my undo is there for when I make a mistake because it's gonna happen. My copy, my paste, and then also have for screenshots because I do a lot of screenshots.
I never been big on editing myself. I love doing like the research and actually interviews. Like right
Mm-hmm.
now, like chatting with you,
Sure.
this kind of stuff is part of the fun I have. Some
Oh
people
yeah.
really love editing, and that's fair. Like I totally get why they would like
Mm-hmm.
it. I just can't get myself to do it half the time. And when I
Yeah.
found the speed up thing, man, that
Oh man, yes,
oof.
yes. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with it. I think it's because there's so much I don't know right now. It's all
Mhm.
new and fun to me. But I think once I get to that point where it just becomes, hey, I can just do this real quick, and it's like, let me just hire somebody else to do that.
Well, there's also AI now too. Like shout out to
Yes.
Opus Clip, which is a tool I
Mm-hmm.
use myself. You can just toss these videos into it, and I get like 20 clips from this interview, and I can go post them
Yeah, and
afterwards.
and I've been flirting with the idea of using that for my brother and I our podcast because it's not big at all, and it's a labor of love for us. And we say if no one watches, we are good because I'm having fun talking to my brother every week, so I'm good. But we've realized that when we cut those clips out and you have those searchable topics, it
Mm.
does a lot better for us than say episode 72 does,
And this
even
also
when you
doesn't
have a
hurt
description in
to
there.
market a bit more too. Like even if you're
Yes.
not,
Mm-hmm.
if you're just doing it for fun, it doesn't hurt to like get
Yeah.
some more eyeballs on it. And
Oh
I would
yeah.
actually
Definitely.
say even your main YouTube channel, I'd be curious to see
Mm-hmm.
what Opus would come up with for like your random videos.
Yeah, I'll check it out because I know one thing I do with ChatGPT is I have a it's called a I call it a what is it, a random video description. So to
Mm.
give me some title ideas, which most of them I never use. It'll give me a description to kind of start as a foundation, and then it'll give me the top 10 points. So when I get around to TikTok and Instagram Reels and Shorts, I can use that to do like the top 10 things about a thing.
Yeah, I definitely found myself using titles from AI a little too much, but I think that titles are one of those things you have to have a bit more of an eye for. And
Mm-hmm.
once I tweak like 20-30% of what cheap ChatGPT comes up with, it's generally pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like the meta descriptions that I hate doing. Like when you're
Oh
writing a blog
man.
post and having that little meta description at the top,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I can't stand doing that little summarization.
Oh, I know, I know. I understand completely. And then doing that, then making sure you get all your links in there properly,
Hmm.
your time codes. 'Cause I found that that was something that was I wasn't doing for a long time. And then a commenter said, "Hey, I'd really appreciate some time codes." It's like, I've been pushing that off for a long time. All right, we're gonna do it, and it definitely helps. Even helps me.
I actually almost commented on one of your videos, but like this video needs some time cuts because I watched two videos that were very similar. I think it was the
Mm-hmm.
15 things that I liked as items, and then
Mm-hmm.
15 things I didn't like. And the
Mm-hmm.
older one didn't have timestamps, and the newer
Yes.
one did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was about to call
Mm-hmm.
you out, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey, bro, this one needs some timestamps."
Hey, and if you see anything in the future, I don't take it personal. I enjoy any constructive criticism. I did a video once on why I switched from Android to iPhone,
Mm,
and that's the closest I got to did I understand the can of worms I was opening there. But even then, I still have fun. It doesn't.
yeah.
I mean, like, I don't take anything personal, so it's all fun to me.
Well, and one thing I kind of think about a lot as a creator is going back and like updating your old content. So sometimes I have
Mm-hmm.
blog posts that I surprisingly get a decent amount of people asking me to like add their link to my blog post because I got a decent amount of SEO. But more importantly
Mm-hmm.
than that, like my other podcast that I do started a long time ago. A lot of the thumbnails are pretty. I don't want to say crappy, but they were I was new to making thumbnails for interviews
Yeah.
back then, and I made a new style over the last year that I kind of stuck with since then.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I had over 100 interviews for that show alone, I decided to go back and update pretty much 99% of the thumbnails
Uh-huh.
to match this newer style. And that was a hard thing to do, but I think it's making a
Mm-hmm.
big difference in the quality of what people can actually
Oh
see
yeah.
on my channel. And maybe like you could always go back and do new timestamps for videos that were
Mm-hmm.
popped off quite well. I
It's not a
actually
bad
went
idea.
back and went through all my videos on both of the channels and added the affiliate links that I use.
Mm-hmm.
And I
It's not a
think
bad
that'll
idea
help a
too.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to go through that and again take a day off and just sit back and relax with a nice coffee and
Mhm.
get to work. Yeah, that
One
might
thing
be a
that might
bad
help
idea.
is listening to the Eurobeat in the background.
Oh yeah, that'll work. I'm a huge lo-fi fan, so
Yeah,
that'll get me there too. Yeah.
So, getting to the next question here, can you share your
Mm-hmm.
favorite story that's happened to you as a content creator?
So there's two that really come to mind. The first I'll share is it's a testament to when people say your kids are watching what you do. I don't know if you have kids or any yet. No,
Not yet.
enjoy it while you can. Um, but they're watching, and so my daughter, I have to remember she just turned 11 2 weeks ago, and she's always like, "Hey, I want to do a YouTube channel one day," and so we sit and talk about it. And she's talented. I don't know
Mm.
where she gets that from, but she's book smart, math smart. She can draw. She can
She gets it
sing.
from your wife. She gets it from your wife.
Yeah, we'll go. Well, see, my wife can draw, and she played instruments in school,
Yes.
but not to the degree of my daughter.
Okay.
It's amazing. I have to, and I'm not just saying that. I am a little biased because it's my daughter, but it's talent. So her watching and wanting to do that was the first thing, and then I said, hey, you want to help me? So I would say if there is a flat lay in my video in the past, I'd say year and a half, she did it.
Hmm.
So just to have her in on that and to let her know, hey, I know some people are happy about 100,000, tens of thousand views. If anybody's watching mine, I'm excited because I just figure if somebody took the time out to click my link and watch the video, they're interested in what I'm saying. So the fact that they saw the thumbnail that my daughter created or helped me create and watch it, it just kind of was a full circle moment for me. And I'm like, hey, this one got another 100 views. It's up to 1,000 now. It's up to 2,000, 3,000. And to watch her get excited, it was just
And that's
impactful for
thanks
me.
to you.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And
That's so
then I guess
sweet.
the second one, it speaks out to the community. And I'm a small channel, and that's cool. And you said it in the video. You're not a small channel; you just have a small audience, and I thought that was so cool. So with that, I did a review on, as a matter of fact, this pouch right here,
Mm.
and I didn't think anybody watched it. And lo and behold, on Instagram, Matt, who owns Garage Built Gear, he tagged me in a post because one of the observations I made on his pouch was it needs two zippers, so that dual zip.
Hmm.
And he did a new pouch, and he's like, hey, MFinResearch, I got dual zippers now. What do you think? And so I was so tickled. I laughed for like 15 minutes. And just the fact to know that, people out there that I'm watching and I'm digging their stuff are paying attention to me too. And that's just flattering to me. So I think things like that, when people take the time out that I'm not expecting, because again, I'm having fun. I appreciate
Right.
every bit of this. And anybody that reaches out to me, I'm excited. So even when you reached out to me, I was like, hey, I've never done an interview. This is going to be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So I guess the excitement is just my thing right now.
That's exactly why I do these interviews and also reach out to people like you too. Is like I started doing interviews for people who are like multidisciplinary, polymathic. That was kind of like my
Mm-hmm.
thing for the other show. But a lot of those people, I found them because they were also content creators. So about a
Mm-hmm.
fourth or a third of the conversation with them would be on this topic of their content creation. That's
Mm-hmm.
one of their skills. It's one of their areas of life.
Sure.
And I found myself just like, I want to talk more about this. I don't want to move on to
Mm-hmm.
the next
Oh
topic.
yeah.
I mean, I like to move on to the next topic, but I was like, I want to really dig into this. So that's why I started this
Mm-hmm.
show. So we could just spend the whole time talking about content, talking about tools. And one thing I wanted to bring up too about your daughter is that I don't know if it's like youtubejobs.co or .com, but there's actually a website that literally has different YouTube jobs, one of which is thumbnail designer. So you're actually teaching her how to get a job down the line that's probably only going to be a growing industry, too, no less.
Oh yeah.
Mr.
So
Beast talks
again,
about thumbnails all the time.
notebook.
So, yeah. It's like YT jobs, maybe, actually, I think is
Okay.
the URL.
Yeah, that'll get me 75% of the way there. I'll find it.
I just wanted to share a story with you real quick, too, because it kind of similar to idea. Just today, I was on Twitter. I was trying to be active today on Twitter because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I wanted to try to grow some of my following still. And so I was really trying to find some really interesting posts that I could add value to. And someone was actually talking about multi-streaming, which is a topic I've been very
Mm-hmm.
nerdy about as of late. And one of the tools I like to use for recording is called Meld Studio. It's an alternative to OBS or Streamlabs, and it's a relatively new one, but it's much simpler and it's much more minimalist than OBS. And I found myself using it to record almost every time now because it just makes it so much easier. And they just added multi-streaming. So I tweeted out to somebody, and then the CEO of the tool,
Oh
the
wow.
company, reached out to me, and he's like, "Hey, like thanks for showing me this. This is cool. Like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, oh, that's really cool too. Like, just like what you're
That's
saying, it's
cool.
such
That's
a good
cool.
feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it shows what you're doing, has value to somebody out there, and that's always the fun part.
When it comes to your content, you're at that stage where you're building out a lot of content. You've done your time with some podcasting and some blogging. You're doing your time now with videos. So you've gotten your foothold on the different content types. What do you do, or what are you planning on doing when it comes to like repurposing and starting to kind of expand your ecosystem?
So I've dabbled a little bit with shorts and Instagram Reels and TikTok. I always joke to say I might be too old for TikTok. TikTok scares me, but it's not that bad. It's really not.
You're not too old.
I know. I mess around, but so I have a list of all my videos where I may take a piece of them, and I like maybe think of like taking the video down and distilling it to the key points if that's the right approach. And I saw on a podcast somewhere, and I have it as on a note somewhere in my house. Make your B-roll reuse your B-roll as your content. It's like, I shoot a lot of B-roll. I could do that. So that's I think the goal going forward is to work out that flow to maybe get to the point of having the video done earlier in the week. So then I can start focusing more on going out to those other areas like the TikToks, the Instagrams. Just have a few. I do a few. And then just realizing that Instagram, I can just put a picture on there. There's a lot of that on there. And I do that all the time. So, and I think for me, like we talked about the metadata, it's like you have thumbnails and or hashtags and descriptions.
I was also just thinking too, like images are one thing, clips are one way of repurposing, but there's also just making tweets that are quotes from your video, or getting those same quotes and turn it into a quote image on Instagram, for example.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I like
and
that.
then like one thing I have thought about is like taking the next step after repurposing is also like syndication. And so if you make a YouTube short, you might as well post it to Instagram Reels and TikTok and Facebook Reels. But also Pinterest, of all places, is really great.
I've heard that, and
LinkedIn has been pushing their short form video as well. So I'm actually going to do a new strategy here soon. I mean, to like repost a lot of my clips, but now on a new platform, which is LinkedIn. And it's like that syndication could be a big difference. I actually syndicate all of my Instagram pictures to Pinterest as well. So I'm not even on Pinterest, but I'm active on Pinterest, ironically.
And that's a good thought. I mean, because you think about getting on the particular platform, being active on the platform, interacting with the folks on there. But you're right. I mean, just from my limited Pinterest knowledge, it's not really necessary. It's more of having that foundation of things. So that's good.
I almost actually just came to me just now. I feel like EDC and travel bags and like even sling bags, these are topics that not necessarily, to my knowledge, on Pinterest as of yet.
Yeah.
Like they might be able to see some product images on there, but there's not really any creators taking advantage of that. And I almost wonder if it's a blue ocean, as it's called. Like, if that could be a cool, like you could make a cool Instagram infographic about a bag and actually go on Pinterest, not Instagram, but Pinterest infographic.
Yeah, I got you. That's interesting.
Yeah,
because I know. I mean, even looking at my analytics, they're mostly guys, but and you normally equate. My wife uses Pinterest 10 times more than I do, but there's women in the EDC too, so definitely.
Well, there's been on Pinterest too. Like a lot of men go on there too for like different desk setups or office setups and stuff like that. Well, men do too, obviously, but there's like probably more men in that field.
Sure.
So I think a lot of people, it's just like you said with TikTok, you think you're too old for it, and a lot of people say like, oh, Pinterest is more women centric, and so as a man, I probably won't fit on there. But these platforms are way more open than people realize. I think
that's good. I mean, limited beliefs can kind of shorten your vision on things. So that's a good approach. I like that. I do.
Well, I definitely think you have a lot of potential, so that's why I wanted to mention it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do.
Getting kind of to the last question here, what do you have coming down the line that you're looking forward to?
Okay, fun. So first up, let's see. This Friday, as of recording this, I'll be doing my first giveaway to celebrate 1,000 subscribers. So that's fun. I got that all figured out. So I'm going to start handling the logistics on that tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. So I'll handle the logistics on that tomorrow. And the way I set it up, it's kind of easy on me. And then just a kind of a spoiler for anybody who happens to see this and happens to watch my channel as well. starting going into November, I'm going to start a series on the perfect sling. So slings are my favorite thing. I've got a almost a rubric, if you will, on the different. After looking at so many slings, I noticed,
Yeah.
you know, different factors work together to make a sling perfect, if you will. And not all slings have that. And grading those slings to that rubric and seeing how they shake out. Because some slings are fantastic, some are not, and some seem like I've got one. The first one I'm going to review actually. I, when I first put everything in it, it was amazing. It's like it does everything I need. It does even
Mm.
more than I expected. But one of the things that's important to me is the modularity of my sling. So I have to be able to dump my sling in a backpack.
Yeah.
I have to dump my slings in a backpack and use it as a giant pouch from time to time. And you can't do that with that sling at all. And
Mm.
so that's a couple points against it for me. So not something I would think about normally. And I'm sure unless you use a sling like I do, you're not going to think about that. But I think that's what's coming up next. So I've got, let's see, one, two, three, four slings already in the house. One is coming, and then after I get through those five, I'm going to start engaging the community in a poll to see which ones will be next. Because I want to spend a little bit of time. Because one of the things I'm big on is you see a lot in the EDC community. They'll take a product, that unbox it. You don't see any use on it. It looks pristine, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a thing to showing somebody what an item physically looks like, but I care more about how am I going to use this?
And
What
have you used it?
scenario? Yeah. Oh, yeah. What worked in the use case? Like, you know, one example, everyone talks about the hero clips. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Those are
So
cool.
they are fantastic. I love them. But if you get the wrong size, don't get a small one. You are going to be
Mm.
out of luck because it won't stick to any table. It won't hang on any table at all. And I found that out the hard way.
Mm.
So just those things that you get from not just looking at it on the desk and just living with it. That's what I want to do for those folks out there. Because I know a few people that are followers that and subscribers, they are really big into slings. So that's where the idea came from. And I love slings, and it gives me an excuse. The joke is now that I'm done paying for daycare, I can now
Mm.
spend money on slings.
Well, and that money will come back too, probably with affiliate links
Mm-hmm.
and all that
Yeah.
jazz. I will. I wanted to mention too. Well, first off, actually, are you using Gleam.io for your contest
No,
giveaway?
I don't know the actual website, but I have it saved, so I have to check and see
Okay.
if it's Gleam. I think it is.
Okay.
Is Gleam the one that lets you, you know, get so many points for subscribing?
And then like
Um,
Twitter, go check out
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Instagram.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. That's what I think it is, or a competitor. But
yeah.
I found
I was
another
just curious.
giveaway months ago, and I was like, you know, that's the way I'm going to do that, and I just saved it to my list for things for later. So that way,
That's the
I
way I
practice
like it.
the second brain philosophy,
Yeah.
so I don't have to keep it in my head. So I just know where to get it from.
Oh, don't get me on a tangent with that second brain.
Oh man.
So the thing is, too, one thing you might not have thought about, just because you mentioned how you don't really game as much as of late, is like the gamer slings. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't have a Steam Deck, but I have a Switch. And
Mm-hmm.
my last trip, I took my Switch and my little Retroid Game Boy thing with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to find a way to carry both in like a sling outside of my bag because my bag was going to go in an
Mm-hmm.
overhead compartment or something like that. And I didn't want to use a backpack. I ended up using like a travel backpack or whatever. But the point is, I've been looking at these different gamer slings that have a special pouch for your
Yeah.
actual console, so that way the thumbsticks don't get messed up. Because if you just put it in a regular sling, it's going to break the thumbsticks.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a couple cool ones that I found that after like digging on Amazon for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, these are actually like different shaped. The materials are not different, but the way they're using
Yeah.
certain pockets is different than the normal like Tom Talk or air slings. And I was like, that might be an interesting angle to take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do have a Switch. I
Okay,
ended up
yeah.
using it in a. I got a case that came with the Switch. I bought the little pack or whatever,
I got this
and
one right.
yep, that's the guy. And I just dropped that in a sling or a backpack. I've taken it with me. I flirted with the idea of doing a non-gamer bag because I want to get into gaming a little bit. I mobile game a little bit. I'm an anime nerd too, and so a couple anime that are my favorite that have mobile games. I've been playing those. So I have the little wireless controller and I play on my iPad. So I'm
8
not
bit
a
though?
hardcore gamer. I'm sorry.
8 bit though controller?
No, yeah. Actually, it is. It
I
sure
know.
is. I've got the one that's I bought the Sega Genesis one because I was a Sega kid growing up, but it didn't work for all the controls, so I had to get the Super Nintendo. I'm a little sad about that, but it works fantastic though.
I actually wanted to get like the it was like it's basically the size of like a Super Nintendo controller, but an Xbox controller with the two thumbsticks. And I've been seeing that in a lot of EDC videos just because it's so small compared
Yeah.
to like an Xbox or PS5 controller. And that's probably the one I'm going to get if I'm going to use an external one. But now that I have the Retroid, it's kind of just built in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I think that's we might be talking the same one. It's kind of like a clear, not clear, but like an off white color almost. Yeah, that's the one I think I
Translucent,
have.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
I
so
love that.
think I took that with me, and yeah, it works. It fits in what is it, the Tom Talk Tech pouch that I have. It fit in there, one of the slots, no problem. Took it with me on the cruise, was just fine. Nice and padded, protected. Didn't bring the Switch or anything, but I had that, and I had the little Miu. I learned that you don't Miu, or you don't Miu at the pool,
Yeah, because
even if you're
otherwise,
not getting in. Yeah, it's life lessons.
one thing I wanted to ask you before we wrap up
Hmm.
too is what are your take on like portable monitors, like using that for like, either an iPad or your MacBook or whatever you might be using, Windows PC.
Oh, I love them. I
Mhm.
have one. I'm tempted to buy at least one or two more. Outside, I have my Mac Mini in the garage, so I usually use my iPad as a second monitor when I come out here. But I mean, I also have a 50-inch TV out here too on a rolling stand, so I really don't need two screens most of the time. But I
Mhm.
do have one, and I take it with me when I travel. It's a secondary gaming type thing. I've used it. I've hooked it up to the Switch. I was in Georgia for a couple weeks, and I had it hooked up to the Switch and was just playing the thing. And then I actually use it when I record. So I went the YouTuber route and brought the little impact stand, and I have my cell phone hooked to it. I have the light hooked to it. Then I have another arm with the portable monitor hooked up to it, and then I can just take it off and use it whenever I need it. So, oh yeah, definitely a fan of those.
I like that, especially since I like having this. I'm obsessed with this idea of having like a mobile recording studio.
Hmm.
And I saw this really cool new portable monitor like yesterday, and I've been watching videos on it pretty obsessively today. It's called the Satsu,
Hmm.
SOTSU, and it has a built-in like stand that folds into it. It's like 14 or 16 inches. It has a glossy screen, kind of like the MacBook and iPads or whatnot, and it just has a really interesting specs compared to some of these other ones. It's a bit
Hmm.
expensive, like a few $100s.
Where'd you
But
see it
this,
on, like Instagram or something?
I don't know if I think it was on YouTube. I think I just kept seeing it on
Okay.
YouTube a few times. Like, a lot of shorts, ironically,
Okay.
for that one. And it was just interesting to think about. Like, I feel like that would be kind of cool to have like a
Hmm.
monitor on a stand, bring a little mini PC, like a Mac Mini, or I have a little Herc PC here,
Hmm.
like Windows, and it's just like having a portable station and actually have quality screen too, no less.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was actually earlier on about a year ago. I was tempted because a lot of times when I would travel and go home for the holidays, I take my Mac Mini with me, take the
Mm,
portable monitor, and use it almost like a laptop. Because when I started, didn't want a MacBook Air or anything like that. I wanted a Mac Mini, and I know that they released a new Mac Mini today or announced it
yeah,
today, and
but
I'm
the
like,
power button's
oh,
on the bottom.
yeah, I know,
That's
I
dumb.
know.
So
So I'm gonna watch a couple videos tonight, and it's smaller. So
yeah. I will say I loathe Apple. Like, but the thing is, I know a
Hey,
lot about Apple
I
products.
understand. I
Yeah.
understand because I was anti Apple for the longest. I mean, to some degree, I still am.
Mm.
Um, but what ended up happening was my work phone is an Apple phone, and
You need an ecosystem.
it it was one of those things where at first, when I first went to Android, I was all into speeding up my animations and getting the ROMs and switching things out and trying different launchers. And after a while, I got a Pixel and I was like, I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I just want stock Android. And then nobody does stock Android better than Apple almost, to be honest with you. So, I mean, it's sad to say, but, and they're, a couple years behind on what they do. But that ecosystem is
Hmm.
amazing. So that's primarily what it is the ecosystem.
I gotta say, I am really enamored with the idea of Sidecar. I didn't know about that
Hmm.
until recently, where you can use the iPads as a
Oh
second
yeah.
monitor. Because I knew about the wireless ones, but using it as like a
Hmm.
wired connection too, no less, is really cool. One
Hmm.
thing I saw that you might not have seen is someone took the Apple headset and they had a MacBook or a laptop, like the MacBook, yeah, MacBook without a screen. The screen had broke, so they took the screen off and they used the headset with basically just the keyboard
Well,
portion
yeah.
of the
Okay.
MacBook.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that was like that's pretty cool. Like that way you don't have the screen kind of blocking your way too, anyways.
Hmm.
And so they were on a plane sitting there on the MacBook, but using the headset as the screen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of an envisioned use case in some scenarios because you do see it like that, and I'm trying to think. There's a guy in the EDC community name. I think his name is Josh
Mm,
Fern. I'm sorry, I'm butchering his name. I apologize. But he does a lot of hauls and things like that. And he has these augmented reality glasses that don't cost as much as the Apple
mhm.
headset, and it's under $500, I think. And it gives you that same thing. And he says he uses it on like the train, and he's basically got I forgot the dimensions
It's
on
like
it,
a
the
100 inch
monitor. Yeah,
screen. Yeah.
it's crazy, just right there, compact. And I'm like, can I justify this?
See, that's also why I'm thinking about like as a creator too. There's those Meta Ray Bans.
Yeah, yes.
And the thing is, like, unless you have a particular use case, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think they're not worth the cost. But I was with a creator friend out in Vegas, and I saw him taking so many clips. They're only like 15-second clips, I think, is the max you
Yeah,
can do. But he was taking clips and photos, and the quality is really not that bad for
yeah.
sunglasses. And I'm just like, that sounds like a great use for like B-roll, for example,
Mm-hmm.
too. And like that, if I could afford it, that does seem like actually a justified purchase. But I
Yeah.
probably want to spend it on the DJI Pocket 3, Osmo Pocket 3
I,
first.
I was waiting on you because I was gonna say it too. Because man, that bad boy has my eyes so bad.
I've used it and it's so
Oh
good.
man, like because
Ugh,
I film with my iPhone, and
mm,
my initial goal, my goal list was to upgrade to a new camera when I got to 1,000 subscribers. Like, iPhone is fine for right now, but this DJI, oh man, this Pocket is calling me so bad, and I might
what I
have to get
might
it.
say is if for your maybe not for portable setups, but for your home setup, I'm using the
Mm-hmm.
Elgato Facecam Pro,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I saved up for that one. I've been wanting it since they announced it.
Yeah.
Basically, 4K large sensor
Mm-hmm.
like an actual DSLR mirrorless, and it's way more crisp than I ever used.
Yeah.
Just a complete tangent here. I just think you might get a kick out of it. Did you ever use
Oh,
the
I love
Xbox
that.
Connect?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
So I had an Xbox Connect V2 from the Xbox One era,
Mm-hmm.
and I used it as a webcam.
Oh,
And it was
yes, you could.
surprisingly good. It
Because
was
that's
like
essentially
actually
what it
good.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so people actually used it. Some people use the Xbox Connect as the webcam when they're streaming from Xbox, I think. But you have to use
Mm-hmm.
like
Makes
the
sense.
last
Yeah.
gen to do it. For some reason, the series consoles can't even use it at all. But
Mm-hmm.
and you have to use a special driver on Windows to use it as a webcam. But it was actually pretty nice. It was kind of bland. I had to like change the
Gotcha.
saturation, all that jazz. But
Yeah.
it was better than my like Razer Keo camera that I had. So like, dang.
Yeah, I mean, you find you get you started. I mean, it definitely. I mean, and I know for me, I'm still a novice, and I see the what is it, the Starlight, where the do you do all the color collect. I can't talk color correction on DaVinci Resolve, and I'm like, oh, let me just adjust a little bit. We'll go with that. It looks good.
I mainly just adjust like 6 different things. I usually do the mid detail is something I think is
Mm-hmm.
pretty useful a lot of the time, especially since this camera sometimes gets like a little bit faded when I go too far back, something like that.
Gotcha.
And so because the focus I think is limited, but then like I changed the saturation maybe a little bit because my face is like really red in this recording right now,
Mm-hmm.
and then a little bit of temperature sometimes, but like the contrast,
Mm-hmm.
and the shadows. Those two are the ones I mess with, I think, a
Yeah.
lot, and that helps a lot too. And it's like just 6 instead of just one or two,
Yeah.
but it makes a
Yeah. I
difference.
think contrast and shadows are my one or two, because when I record upstairs in the main area, depending on what time I record, that sunlight, and I need to go
Hmm.
ahead. I've got some blackout, not curtains, but the little window liners to put on there because yeah, you can tell too.
Yeah, I had a before we wrap up, I had an issue one day with an interview where the curtain was slightly ajar more than usual, and the temperature of the room
Oh
light,
man.
ambient light, changed 4 times. Not only did it change brightness 2 times, but it
Hmm.
changed color 2 times from like warm to cool.
Oh man.
And the recording was so bad on my side. The guest was fine. On my
Hmm.
side, it was so bad. It was the worst I probably ever had, just because it changed so much and so dramatically.
Hmm.
But yeah. Well, Lamar, where can people find you online if they want to learn more about you and EDC?
Well, you can search me. MFinResearch is usually where you're going to find me. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Most active on YouTube, so definitely hit me up there. I try to respond to all comments because if you take the time to reach out to me, I'm going to take the time out to respond to you. So definitely hit me there. I'd love to hear from you. Any ideas, recommendations, suggestions? I'm a big kid with this kind of stuff, so I like to experiment. So
Go
definitely up
comment on his
for it.
channel that you saw him on the PolyTools show.
Yeah, that'd be dope. I'd love to hear that.
I got all the links for you in the description there. Real quick, I was actually curious. What came
Sure.
up with the name there? What was
I
my
was
second?
hoping you were gonna ask me that question. Oh man, I've been
I'm
hoping
surprised
for
I didn't
so
write it
long
down.
someone was gonna ask me that question. So, like I say in my intro video, it is definitely not what you think. So it's not, I promise. So again, my brother comes up with nicknames for everybody. And so we were talking one day about I was researching a bag or something. And so he was like, MFinResearch strikes again. My last name is Fowler, so Mr. Fowler in research all the
Mr.
time.
Fowl.
Yeah. So that's where it came from. And I was like, I love to play on words. And just like ours is Foul Language Podcast. It's a play again on our last name. So he's good with stuff like that. So shout out to my little brother for the name.
Well, yeah, I love that, and it's always interesting how a lot of people get their names because the stories are always really fun. I'm surprised I didn't have that question written down.
Oh man.
I'm so glad I asked it.
I am too.
Once again, this is Dustin, PolyInnovator, and Lamar Fowler on the PolyTools Creator Spotlight. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.